Before it becomes tough leather in your gloves and boots, it starts here, in the quiet gaze of an elk. Elk are raised on open ranches in cool climates, where space and clean air shape the quality of their hides. Out here, they feed on grasses and forage that keep them healthy and growing. But for some of these animals, this peaceful landscape is only the beginning of a long industrial journey. Today, you'll follow that journey from elk on the ranch to the work gloves and boots that protect hands and feet on tough jobs. Those flexible folds you see start as thick, uneven hides that must be carefully transformed. In this video, you'll see ranch life, air transport, tanning, cutting, sewing, and final inspection, all in strict sequence. The story links remote grazing fields to dense industrial zones, and finally to the shelves of local stores. Inside the Elk Leather Factory, dozens of specialized stations each handle one small step in a long chain. Technicians constantly measure thickness and softness to hit the exact specs needed for gloves and boots. Massive drums tan the hides, permanently stabilizing the fibers so the leather won't rot or crack. Later, powerful sewing machines will turn flat-cut pieces into three-dimensional protective gear. And at the end, pallets of gear leave the factory, ready for welders, carpenters, farmers, and anyone who depends on tough leather. These elk are typically raised on managed ranches that balance open space with controlled feeding and health care. Ranchers supplement natural forage with balanced feed to support strong muscle and hide growth. A dense coat protects the elk from cold, and beneath it the skin gradually thickens as the animal matures.
Continuous movement keeps the hide supple and reduces deep wrinkles that could weaken future leather.
Ranch staff regularly check posture, gait, and overall body condition from a distance.
Each elk is tagged and tracked so its origin and health history are recorded all the way to the leather factory.
Clean water is essential, not just for welfare, but also for skin hydration and overall hide quality.
Ranches sometimes provide scratching posts to give natural behavior an outlet without causing deep scratches.
The more evenly elk graze, move, and rest, the more uniform their hides tend to be. Fewer scars and insect bites mean more usable square footage on each hide later on. In colder regions, elk are well adapted to snow, which also helps keep some parasites in check.
Automated feeding vehicles deliver consistent rations, keeping growth rates and hide development predictable.
A single hide may take years to grow, but in the tannery it will be transformed in just a few days. Calm, low-stress conditions are better for the elk and help maintain consistent skin quality. When elk reach the desired range for weight and age, their IDs are flagged for selection. From the fence line, they visually assess movement, stance, and overall health. High-resolution photos record the visible state of the hide before it enters the supply chain. In a narrow chute, workers can safely examine the hide while minimizing stress. They feel for uniform thickness and check for scars or lesions that could reduce usable leather.
Live weight gives a rough estimate of potential hide size and thickness for planning.
These steel frame crates with wooden slats and straw provide support, ventilation, and cushioning. Ramps are aligned so each elk can step directly from the chute into the crate.
Handlers stay quiet and give space, guiding the elk with gaits instead of force.
Once inside, the front gate is closed and locked to keep the elk secure in transit. Crates are filled one by one,
building a shipment batch sized for the tannery's daily capacity.
Forklifts carefully position the same style of crates onto a transport trailer.
Inside, the elk can stand securely on straw and see out through the slats.
With selection complete, the shipment leaves the pastures and heads toward the airport.
For long distances, many factories rely on cargo airplanes to move live animals quickly and predictably.
At the cargo terminal, another team takes over responsibility for the elk and their crates. The familiar crates are moved onto dollies that let them roll smoothly toward the aircraft.
A dedicated cargo aircraft waits on the apron with its rear loading ramp down.
Motorized rollers lift each crate into the plane in a controlled, gradual motion.
Inside the hold, workers slide the crates along tracks toward their assigned positions.
When checks are finished, the cargo door closes and the plane prepares for departure.
From the outside, it looks like any other cargo flight.
But below the flight deck, timing and route are carefully planned around animal welfare.
A quick climb and direct route reduce travel time and stress compared to long road journeys.
At cruising altitude, stable conditions keep the crates and their occupants relatively calm.
In the hold, controlled ventilation and temperature help maintain predictable conditions.
Monitoring systems continuously verify that pressure and temperature stay within safe limits.
After several hours in the air, the plane begins descending toward the tannery's region.
Landing marks the start of a very different environment for these elk.
Beyond the airport perimeter, industrial buildings hint at the next steps in the chain.
On the ground, the priority is to unload the crates quickly and move them to reception facilities. Each crate is guided down the ramp and transferred onto short-haul trucks. Covered unloading bays protect the elk from sudden noise and weather changes.
Pens are designed for small groups and solid-sided walls to reduce visual distractions.
Warm water rinses away mud, manure, and loose hair that would otherwise contaminate the hide. Cleaner skin makes later processing more efficient and hygienic.
Air removes excess water so the animals are damp, but not dripping when weighed.
Just ahead, a robust platform scale tracks the exact weight of each elk. As the elk stands briefly, sensors capture its weight and link it to its ID. After weighing, elk rest while the facility coordinates the next specialized stages.
From this point, dedicated teams and separate facilities handle the animals under regulated standards.
For our story, what matters next is that their hides are prepared as raw material for leather production.
Here in the raw hide warehouse, elk hides arrive salted and stabilized, ready for the tannery floor.
Each hide still clearly shows the shape of the animal it once covered, but its future purpose is very different.
The first step in tanning is soaking, which rehydrates preserved hides and removes salt. Salt used for preservation must now be washed off along with dirt and dried fluids. Hides tumble in these drums filled with water and mild cleaning agents. Gentle rotation exposes every fold so the solution can reach the entire hide.
Used soak water is filtered and sent to a treatment plant before discharge.
Soaked hides leave the drums heavier, cleaner, and more flexible.
Fleshing machines remove leftover fat and tissue that would interfere with tanning.
Dull, rounded blades do the work, avoiding cuts in the valuable grain layer.
A properly fleshed elk hide shows a clean, even surface for chemicals to penetrate.
Next comes liming, which swells the hide slightly, opens up fibers, and loosens hair. Computer-controlled dosing adds measured amounts of alkaline agents to keep conditions consistent.
Inside the drum, hair roots weaken, so hair can be removed without damaging the grain. Mechanical unhairing units strip away the loosened hair, which is collected for separate handling. Now hairless, the hide reveals the grain pattern that will show on finished elk leather. Deliming and baiting lower the pH and soften the hide further. Using selected enzymes, periodic samples go to the lab to verify that softening and fiber opening are on track. Before tanning, hides are pickled in acid and salt solutions to stabilize them.
For elk leather used in gloves and boots, chrome tanning is common because it yields strong yet flexible leather.
Chromium salts in water slowly bond to the collagen fibers inside the hide.
Over several hours, tanning agents work their way through the full thickness of each elk hide. When they emerge as wet blue, the hides are permanently stabilized against decay.
Mechanical pressing removes excess water to prepare them for splitting and shaving.
A splitter can divide the elk hide into layers, with the grain side reserved for premium work gear.
Thickness is adjusted because gloves and boots require different leather gauges.
Shaving heads fine-tune the thickness, creating an even sheet across the entire hide.
Next, excess moisture must be removed without shrinking or warping the hides.
By stretching and securing the edges, operators control shape and reduce wrinkles.
Now dry and stable, the leather is still stiff and plain, waiting for finishing touches.
Finishing adjusts color, feel, and surface texture to match different work gear needs.
Elk leather can be dyed in many shades, though work gear often favors darker tones that hide stains.
Spray systems apply dyes and protective topcoats in even, controlled layers.
Buffing and tumbling soften the grain and create a pleasant, grippy hand feel.
Operators inspect each side, marking around scars or thin spots to avoid weak areas.
Templates for fingers, palms, and cuffs are nested to maximize yield from each hide.
Computer-controlled cutters trace patterns with extreme precision and minimal waste.
A sharp blade and consistent pressure ensure clean edges that will sew together smoothly.
Cut pieces are organized by component and size before entering assembly lines. On the glove line, dozens of machines work in sequence to build each pair.
Elastic at the wrist helps keep debris and sparks from slipping inside the glove.
Once stitched, gloves are turned and shaped to reveal their final form.
Labels confirm the size, material, and sometimes safety category for industrial buyers. Finished gloves hang in pairs, so inspectors can easily compare them side by side.
Critical stress points like the thumb crotch and palm heel are checked for missed stitches or thin spots. Heavier or stiffer sections of elk leather are set aside for work boots. Hydraulic presses use steel dies to stamp out boot components with consistent dimensions.
Boot production adds midsoles, toe protection, and rugged outsoles to the leather uppers.
Casting machines stretch the upper around a last so it holds the shape of a working foot. Once soles are bonded and seams are sealed, each boot is flexed to confirm comfort and durability. Separate from the production noise, a lab checks that elk leather meets strength and safety standards.
Tensile tests measure how much force the leather can withstand before tearing.
Abrasion tests simulate years of rubbing against tools, materials, and rough surfaces.
Some models are rated for heat or spark resistance, so samples are tested under monitored conditions.
Digital records link each batch of gloves and boots back to specific elk hide shipments and ranches.
Even inside the factory, workers rely on protective gear, sometimes including the same elk leather gloves they just made.
Automatic packers load retail or bulk units into sturdy outer cartons.
Labels list product type, sizes, quantities, and destination to keep logistics organized. Trucks now carry the finished gear onward to regional warehouses and, eventually, local stores. On store shelves, the long industrial story is compressed into a simple label: elk leather. For the worker starting a shift, these are tools, trusted to protect hands and feet all day long.
The softness and strength of elk leather let the glove flex with each grip while resisting splinters and abrasion.
On uneven surfaces, elk leather uppers flex instead of cracking, backing up the boot's rugged sole.
From a quiet elk pasture to a bustling job site, every glove and boot carries a hidden story of ranches,